So every week during the fantasy season, I give you guys the top 12 defense rankings for the particular week. And I gotta be honest, week 14 was the hardest week and probably the most wrong I was all season long. I missed on a lot of defenses and it deserves accountability. And that's why I have a whole segment dedicated to it on Monday night, what I got right and what I got wrong. I like to hold myself accountable because it helps me move forward and it helps us move forward as a community. It's a new week. There's new injuries to the quarterback position, offense, and defense. So there's a lot of change up here, a lot of new faces on this list right here. We're going through the top 12 defense rankings in week 15 fantasy football. And not only am I one of the only fantasy football YouTubers who does defense rankings on a weekly basis, I also give you my favorite defense to pick up in advance for next week, which is pivotal in playoff time. To maximize our points, we need to do this. So please go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Let's go ahead and just dive right into this right now. So the first defense on here is the 49ers. They're taking on the Cardinals this week. And I think that it's a little bit risky to put what I always discuss on this channel, a divisional matchup on this odd number one. I always discuss this on the channel. Divisional matchups are very, very unpredictable in fantasy football. A lot of things can happen. And who knows? Arizona might come out here and give the 49ers a run for their money. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's a good chance that the 49ers absolutely stomp the Cardinals en route to their number one seed destination. I think that's just going to happen here. The 49ers are on fire. Their defense is on fire. I can't imagine having the 49ers outside of number one against the Cardinals this week. The Colts defense versus Pittsburgh this week is at number 2. And I think the Colts defense, by the way, this is a Saturday game, so you need to make sure your lineup is set. But I think that the Colts defense it's so easy to identify and hard to identify at the same time. What I've been saying for weeks now, and really months at this point with the Colts defense specifically, is that the Colts defense is in a situation where they are extremely unstable as an NFL defense. They give up yards, they give up points. They don't, it's not like they're some perfect defense, but they're a great fantasy defense because they create points. They get turnovers. They just had a pick 6 last week. They had a special teams touchdown a week ago. And they also get it to your quarterback. You can see all those numbers on the screen right now. That's what leads the Colts defense to being at 9 fantasy points per game. The Colts defense against the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky, give me the Colts defense all day long. The Chiefs defense at number 3, and they are at New England this week. Now, I know we've been discussing the Chiefs defense for a couple weeks now for negative reasons. I at one time, a month ago, I thought the Chiefs defense was a locked and loaded top 3 defense for the fantasy playoffs. Based on their past few performances, that would argue, right? I mean, there's not a lot of evidence to support that they're a top option. This is a risky play. I'm not going to lie to you. And it shouldn't be risky. It shouldn't be really thought of as risky because they're taking on the Patriots. But I can understand the argument of the Chiefs defense being weak lately due to a lot of injuries. And I can also see the argument of the Patriots just put up, their a decent amount of points against the Steelers. I can get that argument. I'll argue right back at you that the Chiefs defense is going to be so fired up for this game and just looking to beat the crap out of the Patriots this week. And that's what I'm banking on this week. Chiefs defense at number 3. The Las Vegas Raiders defense make their triumphant return to the top 12 at number 4 versus the Chargers. So let me just put it to you very simply. The Raiders defense is up here because of matchup. Even if Justin Herbert was playing, they were going to be inside the top 12. Justin Herbert has been very handicapped by they're not a terrible offense just based on talent, but I mean, this team doesn't look like they've checked out. They look like they're ready for Brandon Staley to just get fired. And I think it will happen, but I don't think it happens till the end of the season. And I think that those players are just ready for him to be gone. I mean, they look disinterested. So, especially without Justin Herbert, I think the Raiders could easily rout them. And again, division matchup, a little bit risky, but give me the Raiders defense at number 3 because they just held the Vikings to very few points. So I'll take the Raiders defense at number 4 against a horrendously run Los Angeles Chargers. The Atlanta Falcons this week at number 5 taking on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Matchup is everything here. And really, the Falcons defense is, I think, pretty easy to identify. I've been saying this for weeks. They're not a good defense. This is not a defense I would play against the Washington Commanders, I don't think. This is not a defense I would play against maybe even the Chicago Bears. But the Atlanta Falcons are playing the Carolina Panthers. That makes a huge difference. So Atlanta here gets the matchup. I don't love their defense. Their numbers speak for themselves. They're not a great fantasy defense. That's just the reality. But they get the matchup, so that's why they're at number 5. The Miami Dolphins here at number 6. The Miami Dolphins are taking on the Jets. So I wanted to rank Miami above Atlanta. I think that Carolina still is the best option as far as fantasy defenses go when you're looking at matchup. Miami's defense has been better. And they're taking on the Jets, who, you know, ordinarily great matchup. But again, you could kind of make the Patriots argument here. They just, absolutely put the Texans to sleep in week 14. Do I think it's sustainable with Zach Wilson? Absolutely not. No, I don't. But the same thing holds true with the Jets. The Jets are streaky, and they have top-tier talent offensively. Not that they're deep, but their 2 top talents, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, they're tremendous players stuck on a bad offense. So every once in a while, you'll see them start to catch fire, and they did last week. Does it carry into this week? Maybe. All I know is that the Miami Dolphins, the last time they met, they handled the Jets easily. So I've got the Dolphins here at number 6. The Cincinnati Bengals this week, and they're taking on the Minnesota Vikings at home. Look, the Bengals defense is not some excellent defense, and I really didn't envision myself having the Bengals defense inside the top 12 again once Burrow went down. I didn't envision this, but here we are. And they're taking on the Vikings, who they're reeling right now. Josh Dobbs has been figured out. He's always been a backup quarterback. He kind of caught the league by surprise a little bit, and people are figuring him out. He's just not starter worthy. So with Justin Jefferson likely going to be playing in this game, it's why the Bengals are higher. Honestly, I think I could put them higher if Justin Jefferson was not playing. This Vikings team, they look bad. It's not a good situation. So I've got the Bengals at number 7. The Bears at number 8, making their debut this year. Good to see them, right? I actually like it. The Bears are number 8 this week, and they're taking on the Browns. Not like it's some great matchup, and it's in Cleveland. But the Bears defense, guys, I don't know if you realize this. Past 2 weeks that they've played, they've been a top-tier fantasy option. Top tier. 14 points last week, and they held the Vikings to basically nothing in week 12. So the Bears defense is, once they got Josh Sweat, it changed everything. It changed everything. They can get out to the quarterback now. They're getting turnovers. This is turning into a pretty good defense. They're getting hot at the right time. Fantasy football should be looked at in 4 quarters of a season, and the Bears are actually getting hot as a team, and especially as a defense. That's why with Joe Flacco being the quarterback, the guy is playing better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson was. That doesn't make him immune to interceptions, because he still is tossing interceptions. He's very capable of having bad games. I think the Bears defense is a very, very good dart throw at number 8 here, and someone that I view as more valuable than a dart throw. That's why they're inside the top 10. The Tennessee Titans at number 9. They may be making their debut as well, versus the Texans. So this one obviously requires context. The reason the Titans defense is in here is because of CJ Stroud in the concussion protocol. CJ Stroud probably will not play this week. In addition to that, you have a now less than 100% again, Nico Collins, just re-aggravated his calf injury, may not play either. So if we're talking no CJ Stroud, no Nico Collins, this Texans offense will not be able to move the ball. They will not. Davis Mills, it will look a lot like it did last year. And I like the Texans, how far they've come. This is going to look very similar to what it did last year. Their quarterback is not going to be able to push the ball, and he's got no weapons. And also, the Texans' ground game is so dependent on the run game, on the pass game. So if they can't establish the pass, they're not going to run the ball well. The Titans, if all of those things line up, are a top 10 defense this week, I think. And be careful, be mindful, be watching this situation throughout the week, because if CJ Stroud plays, they drop outside the top 12. No question about it. If Nico Collins plays, they may drop a spot, but they'll still be inside the top 10. The New Orleans Saints defense here, number 10. New Orleans coming off a great week, and they're taking on the Giants. They had a great week last week. They got a defensive touchdown. It looked great, right? But they played the Panthers. Let's not forget that. They played the Panthers. I don't think the Saints defense is as good as they were at the beginning of the year. And the Giants are coming off a big win against the Packers. So I wonder with this defense, but, you know, we're at the point of the season where at the top, once we get outside of the top 10, we have to start taking a little bit of chances and some shots. The Saints defense, I do think, has potential to build off of what they did last week and have another good game. So I've got them here at number 10, but I'm not exactly super confident in this one. And then the Browns at number 11. The Browns obviously taking on the Bears. Look, the Bears have been much better offensively, but I've said this over time. The Bears offense is still prone to turnovers. Justin Fields is still prone to turnovers. He played a clean game last week against the Lions. That was great. But, you know, having to travel to Cleveland against a better defense could spell trouble for Fields. So I think the Browns defense, you could see on the screen, their defense is very, very good in fantasy football. They get after your quarterback, they get turnovers, and they hold you to very little yardage and very few points. That's how they're as good as they are in the playoff standings in real football. So I do think that Justin Fields could be prone to having a turnover this week. That's why the Browns are here at 11. And then the Ravens defense rounded out against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Ravens defense, by numbers, you'd think they belong much higher, right? And I could make the argument myself that they should be much higher. Based on the way Lawrence played last week, based on the way this Jaguars offense played last week, I think it's very possible that the Ravens have a top 5 finish this week. That's why they belong inside the top 12. I think their ceiling is really high this week. I would say, if you apply my argument that I made in the wide receiver rankings video on Tuesday to this, and I say that Trevor Lawrence maybe gets 10% healthier, I think it changes things. And I think it lowers the floor of the Ravens offense, the Ravens defense, if Lawrence can get back and look better. But that being said, the ceiling is high, and that's why they're at number 12. So as promised at the beginning of the video, I am giving you my favorite defense to pick up in preparation for next week, if you have the roster space and you can afford to put this defense on your bench. And I'll be honest here, this defense is heavily rostered right now. They're about 74% rostered in ESPN leagues. I'm banking on the fact that they get dropped this week because they're playing the Cowboys this week. It's the Buffalo Bills defense, because next week they take on the Chargers. And like I discussed with the Raiders defense is at number 4 because they're playing the Chargers. The Bills defense, if I was ranking today, could very well be number 1. I think the Bills defense is going to freaking smash next week. And if someone drops the Bills defense because they're playing the Cowboys this week and they don't have the roster space to be able to hold this defense, I would say pick up the Bills immediately. This is going to be a defense that you want in preparation for week 16. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below and what questions you need answered for week 15 fantasy football. And if you want to see the top 30 wide receiver rankings for week 15 fantasy football, click on this video right here.